بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد الصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم صلوات أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المتين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Maher Rajab Mubarak to everyone. I don't think that I've been here since the month of Rajab began. Month of Rajab also is one of those holy months in the Islamic calendar. A lot of times we only look at Masalan Shahr Ramadan or Shahr Muharram as holy months, but indeed the holy months are many more during the year, including Rajab, Sha'ban, Shahr Ramadan, Shawwal, Muharram, and there are other months also that have their fazilat. And to really get an idea of the importance of the month of Rajab, you have to look into books like Mafatih al-Janan and books that show you those a'mal and those du'as that are specific for the months and for the days. But generally we consider Maher Rajab as the month of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. And it's for that reason I wanted to start off with this verse of Quran that we began with, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that surely Allah and His angels, they send blessings on the Prophet. O you who believe, you also send salutations upon him, the best of salutations. This is the command in Quran that we should, whenever we mention the name of Hazrat Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, whenever we call to mind his memory, we should recite salawat. Salawat is one of those things that actually, it's much more than simply giving respect to Hazrat Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam himself. And we can see that from the hadith that accompanies this verse of Quran. When this verse of Quran was revealed, the companions asked Prophet, how do we send blessings upon you? In what manner do we do that? And Prophet said, then you send blessings upon me, and don't make me, what he says, batra, coming from the same root word as abtar. Don't make me cut off, don't cut me, don't separate me from my relatives and my family members. And he teaches his companions, upon the revelation of this verse, you say, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, that you include the al, the ahl bayt Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam when we recite salawat. And this salawat, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali, and this salawat has a very important status. It's not just as a respect then to Prophet or to Ahl Bayt alayhi salam, but in and of itself it is a dua, and indeed the key to the ijabat al-dua, the answers of dua, because it's mentioned in riwayat that whosoever should say the salawat before and after their dua, then their dua is answered, inshallah, because Allah will not accept one of these duas, which is salawat, and reject the other. So this is one of the keys to duas that I am sure we had mentioned before, and that we should keep in mind during the month of Rajab, the month of Sha'ban, which is coming, month of Ramadan which we should be looking forward to. Month of Ramadan, which is fast approaching, is something that I'd like to begin talking with you about in this lead up to that month. That it's very necessary that we take advantage of the month of Rajab that is upon us now and the month of Sha'ban. It's highly recommended to fast during these months. I advise everybody who owes fasts from last year, ladies for those female specific reasons, men usually for the reasons of traveling or illness. A lot of times we end up owing, 3-4 days worth of fasts. As an example, maybe you were traveling, maybe you were ill, maybe something happened. You have a few days of fast that you may owe. And then someone owes like 3-4 days of fasts, but they wait till 2 days before Shahr Ramadan to make up those fasts. It's very important that in these holy months, alhamdulillah, that we should attempt to be ready for Shahr Ramadan, which is fast approaching. That if we owe something to Allah from last year, Shahr Ramadan, if we have some kafara to pay, whatever the case may be, straighten out last year's Ramadan before this year comes upon us, because there's kafara for that too. So we should be on our guard, especially as these holy months, Rajab and Sha'ban and Shahr Ramadan, that are upon us. It's important that we do a little dushman shanasi and understanding of who is our enemy. Who is our enemy? If you remember, in the month of Muharram, we had a discussion concerning Dust Shanasi and Dushman Shanasi, knowing one's friends, knowing one's compatriots, companions, and knowing one's enemies in the light of Ziyarat Ashura. And you remember we had gone over that, I believe, almost to its fullest extent if we hadn't finished it, inshallah. And we had discussed this issue of understanding one's enemies also. That Islam is not just a religion of love and friendship. Islam is also an enemy of hating the enemies of Allah, being dissatisfied and disassociating oneself with the enemies of Allah and of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. Please send us salam. We see in Quran that in numerous occasions Shaitan is termed as Aduwwun Mubin, a clear enemy, an open enemy. And just, if you just take a quick look at Quran, I don't know if you have Mu'jam in your homes, but really Mu'jam al-Mufaharis, it's a dictionary of Quran. Everybody should own them. I mean, just so that you can, sometimes you have like a verse in your mind, maybe one word from the verse in your mind, you want to see what that verse is, you want to look up that word to see how this word is used in Quran, how this phrase is used in Quran. Having this Quranic dictionary, Mu'jam, is very important for you. And if you can use an Arabic dictionary, you can use a Mu'jam, and it's very informative. You look in Quran and you see Aduwwun Mubin comes up so many times. You look, for instance, this is the one that I have been using for this discussion, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya ayyuhan nas kulu mimma fil ardi halalan tayyiban wa la tattabi'u khutuwat ash-shaytan innahu lakum aduwwun mubin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O mankind. You know what's beautiful about this verse? Quran in various places addresses specific groups. So when Quran begins with Ya ayyuhal mu'mineen, or you believe, then Quran is addressing only the believers. And whatever information is in this verse is for believers. When Quran addresses Bani Israel by name, or Bani Israel, then the information contained in this verse is specific to Bani Israel. And also, O you who disbelieve. When Allah uses this, information contained in this verse is specific to those who disbelieve. But when Quran says, Ya ayyuhan nas, this is addressing all of mankind, irrespective of their religion, what their ideology is, whether they're Christian, Muslim, Jew, Hindu, believer, disbeliever, mu'min, Muslim, no matter what, this Ya ayyuhan nas is for them. It's for mankind, all of mankind. Allah says in this particular verse, O mankind, eat of the lawful and good things out of what is in the earth, and do not follow the footsteps of Shaitan. Surely he is your open enemy. Aduwwun mubin. As Shahr Ramadan is getting closer and we're in the midst of Shahr Rajab, moving very quickly before we know it in the Shahr Sha'ban, we have to prepare ourselves. This struggle is an everyday struggle, but Shahr Ramadan just brings it to the forefront. You know, for the rest of the year, we take jihad al-nafs and put it on the back burner. And we let it simmer. We turn down the fire under it and just let it simmer. But when Shahr Ramadan comes by, then we take this jihad al-nafs and we put it on the front burner and turn up the heat a little bit so it could boil a little. But this isn't enough medicine for us. This mentality that we receive in Shahr Ramadan, this inspiration that we receive in Shahr Ramadan, we're so sick, we need more medicine than this 1 month in the year medicine. We need more medicine than that. In getting into these months, we have to understand who is our enemy. So the Quran says one of our enemies, and a very clear enemy for us, is this Aduwwun mubin, Shaitan. Shaitan is Aduwwun mubin. Why is Shaitan our enemy? Well, you know the story. Shaitan didn't like us from the very beginning. From the very moment of our creation, from the very moment of our inception, Shaitan had a problem with insan. Shaitan even tells Allah, he says, Allah, you created me from fire, and him you created from dust, from clay. I'm better than him. This actually is the first case of quote-unquote racism and arrogance that you see in the creation. That what we suffer from here in America, and you see going on in the news, a lot of us watch these news stories about the killing of people by the police, and we think that this is something ajib or gharib. We think that it's something strange and new, that it's something that doesn't really happen often, that maybe we're just going through a phase right now. Fact of the matter is, these extrajudicial killings have been going on for hundreds of years here now. And the root of them is racism. There's no doubt about that. The root and the cause of them is racism and the fear that still exists in the hearts of many, and the hate that still exists in the hearts of many. So this is definitely Shaitan saying, I'm better than him. This is one of the first cases of racism. Racism is satanic because of this statement of Shaitan. I'm better than him. Shaitan had a problem with insan from the beginning. And the reason is because insan put Shaitan on the spot. For thousands of years he had worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala perfectly. His maqam had been elevated to a very high maqam, such that even Christians mistake him for an angel. And this is one thing we want to mention tonight also as we continue with our discussion. How Judeo-Christian view of Shaitan have affected us as Muslims. But Shaitan is there. And we don't really take him seriously even though he is Aduwwun Mubin. He's promised in Quran that he will attack from the front, from the back, from the left, from the right. Yani, he's trying to encircle us in his snare. And from this point of view, we get an image of Shaitan as a powerful character. And as a being with some ability. And in this way, really, when you look at the way that Shaitan is especially portrayed in the West, in Christianity especially, it actually has even infected our view of Shaitan. And made us look at Shaitan in a different way. What does Allah call him? Aduwwun Mubin, a clear enemy. And we'll make this clear in just a moment. But just for a minute, let's show you how the West looks at Shaitan. Send us salawat and we'll get cracking. One thing we see about how Shaitan is portrayed in the West is that Shaitan has some ability and some power of his own. And you hear them talk about it all the time. When something bad happens to someone, they say, what? Satan made it happen. Somebody does something that wasn't expected from him. You say, what happened to him? They say, the devil gave him a kick. Something goes wrong, people will say, oh, the devil is bad. And the Shaitan made it happen. Even if you tune into Christian radio, sometimes on these drives, I'll listen to Christian radio because they come in real clear, whether you're in Tampa or Orlando. Stations don't change. Their broadcast unit is very powerful. You listen to Christian radio, they make it seem like Shaitan has some power. And he buys people's souls. What happened? He sold his soul to the devil. Really? Can someone actually sell their soul to the devil? Now he's at war with God. He's on the devil's side. And this is something that's very common in Western culture. They portray it that Shaitan is gathering an army and gathering a host as to make one final attack on the kingdom of God. Yani, that Shaitan has some hope of overthrowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. None of this is supported in Quran. None of this is supported in our ideology. And in fact, if there's one thing that we see from Islam, from Quran, from Ahadith, is that Shaitan is actually broke and powerless. And indeed, the only power that Shaitan is imbued with in Islamic ideology is the power of suggestion. The power of suggestion. This idea that Shaitan can buy and sell souls, possess people, actually lead people astray. At the end of the day, we have to realize why the Quran calls him Aduwwun Mubin. Why Aduwwun Mubin? This means Shaitan is an open enemy for you, isn't it? He's a very clear enemy for you. That implies that in addition to this very clear enemy that you have, this very open enemy that you have, this Aduwwun Mubin known as Shaitan that you're faced with, you also have a hidden enemy. An enemy that is stalking us secretly. And Shaitan is Aduwwun Mubin. He's an open enemy. And understand something about open enemy and hidden enemy. An open enemy, an enemy that's lost the element of surprise, is already weak. And this is exactly what Quran says about Shaitan. Quran says about Shaitan that surely, inna kayda Shaitan za'if, that surely the plan of Shaitan, the device of Shaitan is weak. That his kaid, his plan is da'if. An open enemy has already lost. As long as we recognize it. As long as we recognize the alamat of that open enemy and then resist that open enemy is already defeated and exposed. That enemy that's open, you know him. There's a song back home in the Caribbean, very famous song. It says, Lord, protect me from my friends now that I know all my enemies. And this is really the case that it is with Shaitan. There's not much to fear from an enemy that is mubin. Unless we follow him. Unless we fall for those known tricks of his. This enemy is dangerous enemy because he is an enemy, but already he has been lost some power by losing the element of surprise. He is aduvun mubin. So then, what about when Shahr Ramadan comes and people say Shaitan is locked up? If Shaitan is locked up, how come all these evil things still happen? There's still murderers, there's still robberies, there's still bombings, there's still terrorism. If Shaitan is locked up, Aduvun Mubin is locked up in Shahr Ramadan, so why all these things? Because there is a secret enemy for us. An enemy that we are loath to recognize, to identify, and to confront. And that enemy is our own selves. This is an enemy that we love. This is an enemy that we take as a friend. And the spirit of these holy months, when you look at Shahr Rajab, Shahr Sha'ban, Shahr Ramadan, Shahr Shawwal, Muharram even, and all of these holy occasions in the year, go look in Mafatih al-Janan and see what is recommended to do in these days, and you'll find that in each step of the way there is something there to test yourself and to exert yourself and to bring yourself under some control and some order, because this adu, this enemy that we're facing ourselves, is much more deadly to us than even Shaitan. This power of suggestion that Shaitan has could never have any effect without our own nafs, desires and inclinations. That in fact the more dangerous enemy to us is our own selves. And we can see that in Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes this very clear of what is expected from us in this struggle. Please send a salawat and we'll read that for you, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah number 13, Surah Al-Ra'd, verse number 11. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I'm sorry. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not change the condition of a people until they change what is with themselves. Now then, this verse has a twin. And Mufassirin have said this particular verse, although it's applicable to positive or negative circumstances, it's largely applicable to negative circumstances. That when we're facing hardships, difficulties, primarily spiritually, but not just spiritually, physically also, but primarily in that spiritual growth that's necessary. When we're facing difficulties and we need change, we should understand that Allah does not change that difficulty to ease until we do something for ourselves. Allah does not change the condition of a people until they first change what is with themselves. This is very reminiscent of that verse of Quran that I know we've read here before and gave the tafsir of here before, where Allah says in Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, In tansurullah yansurkum. If you help Allah, He'll help you. This demands that we make an effort in order to receive the assistance of Allah. So any hardship that we're facing, we should confront that issue, even if it's spiritual issues, from ourselves and do something for ourselves, because simply making du'as without action is not beneficial. And we have so many riwayat, so many ahadith and verses of Quran that indicate upon that. But let's take a look at then that sister verse of this verse of Quran, inshallah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran, in Surah Al-Anfal, verse number 53, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ لَمْ يَكُنْ مُغَيِّرًا نِعْمَةً أَنْعَمَهَا عَلَى قَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. That's because Allah surely never changed the condition of a people, the ni'mat of a people that He had granted them, until they changed something with themselves. Now this covers ni'amat. Any ni'mat that we have, any good thing, kindness, favor from Allah that we possess, Allah does not remove that from us, that ni'mah, that barakah, that blessing, that kindness, that favor. Allah doesn't remove it from us until something fundamental changes within ourselves. For instance, Allah gives us some ni'mah, any ni'mah. Masalan, sometimes barakat of health is an example. Allah gives us that ni'mah, that blessing, that favor of good health. Then we go ahead and we use that good health for bad purposes. Go and use that strength, power that Allah has given us, I don't know, to be a stick-up kid. Now you put bandana on your face and you pull a gun and you stick people up. And because you're so big and powerful, you don't even really need the gun, they just turn over the money. Now something has changed. And now you see that ni'mah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can take that away. In both of these verses, something very powerful is expressed about Islam that is at the very root of the growth of Islam. And that is that this religion empowers the follower. This religion doesn't tell you, hey, believe in so-and-so. And if you believe in so-and-so enough, your sins are forgiven. Hey, deeds are not necessary. Grace is what's necessary. And in fact, deeds without grace, Christians would tell you, are not accepted. Even if you're the best person, but you haven't attained the grace of God, you're hellbound. Islam empowers the human being, puts the destiny of the human being, not just the physical destiny of the human being, but the spiritual destiny of the human being in the hands of the follower. Yani you choose, you get involved, you make a sacrifice, you do. And if you follow this path that is laid out before you, through your own efforts, you will grow. And of course, we don't mean to belittle or to disclaim the inayat, the attention and the everlasting care that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestows upon us, and that's mentioned in the Quran also. That in Islam, the believer is empowered, and in these months of Rajab, Sha'ban, leading up to the holy month of Ramadan, we really need to put this ideology to Don't let these days and weeks and months pass us by. Look at that sweet feeling that we get from Shahr Ramadan. We can receive that sweet feeling in these months also of Rajab and Sha'ban if only we expend the same amount of effort that we expend in Shahr Ramadan. And in fact, that Ramadani feeling that we get every year for 4 weeks can be ours all year round if we invest that energy, time, spirit, love into the religion that we invest during the month of Ramadan. Don't let these weeks and days pass by. Prepare ourselves for Shahr Ramadan, inshallah. We ask of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have mercy on all of us, to guide us to His straight path. Ya Allah, have mercy on the souls of our departed loved ones, members of our families, members of our community who have traveled before us. We ask of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give shafa'at to the members of our community in need of that. Shafa'at al-badani, shafa'at al-ruhi. Ya Allah, hasten the appearance of your Imam and make us his helpers and supporters upon his return. وَلَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ